when tenophilia meets sadism and neither are evolved. We're going to talk about the Andrew Tate controversy, if I can call it like that, not even the freak show, because it exploded online, and as a Romanian, I had no freaking idea who this guy was until 2 days ago. Not in my, range of interests, of compatibility, of anything. However, the case exploded, so I'm going to talk about it. Hi, this is Liana, Holistic Intimacy Coach. Welcome back to my channel. Here, I help you get your orgasmic intimacy. Right, so the Andrew Tate case, I'm going to call him a freak case, or tenophilia case. This guy apparently existed for many years and he was winning the internet and the online. I had no clue. And it's no wonder, because when I started listening stuff about him and then hearing clips with his statements, what did I get? One, the guy hates mature women. He just hates them. Number two, he's a tenophile. The only time that he speaks well of women is when he mentions girls. And then he also speaks that he only dates women who are 18 and 19 because those women obey him and they follow orders and he can make them into whatever he wants. Older women who will not accept that and who will challenge him for whatever reason are not attractive to him. Then there's the infamous clip of him. I understood that one was cut out and edited to make it look like it was rougher than in what it seemed. I'm not sure, like you would tell somebody to count their bruises. There was a clip of him in 2016 when he was beating up a woman, a young woman, probably a teenager, telling her why she was crying, why she was getting beaten, and then asked her to count the bruises. And then he later said that it was a game made to look as if it was worse than it actually was, and had somebody not edited the video, it would have seen the entire thing. So if what he says is true, then he's a sadist. But even so, a sadist that will use his force on 18 and 19-year-olds. People who are not yet in their full power. People who are not yet psychologically and emotionally matured in order to withstand that kind of interactions. Where do I come from with this statement? Well, first of all, in my community, I had an Introduction into Kink series. When we were talking about physical kink impact, we were talking about, okay, how you do that in a way that you don't bruise the person, you don't injure the person. And then when we were talking about fear and emotional manipulation, just for the sake of a game, we were talking about opening up the space, having safe words, closing the space, and also who that kind of a game is a good match to. Because not everybody's gonna dig that. No. So this guy is probably a sadist, but not a very evolved one. Not a very trained or skilled or not very good at it. Even with one edited clip, that's not, you don't ask people to count their bruises, probably the bruises that you gave to them. So that's one. Secondly, I found out this guy actually runs a video chat business, and that's how he earns his money. With all the women that, or most of the women that work for him were his dates, and he made those women video chat for him. And then other women joined in, but apparently he was not even paying them. He was giving them shelter, apparently because those women can't leave the compound, and protection. That sounds like old school mafia. You work for me and I give you protection. That was also in the slavery age. That's what people were doing. They were giving them protection and shelter, and people couldn't leave the premises, but they got to work for the master or whatever this guy, top G, whatever the fuck that is. So Then I found out why he came to Romania. And that one, like, believe it or not, this one triggered me the freaking most. He said that Western society is corrupt, but he came to Western, specifically Romania, because corruption here is accessible. Yeah. And then he talked about all the bribes that he had to give every day, bragging that there were other people coming to his door begging for money so that he could keep his business. That particular thing really triggered me. Bribes are illegal, period. And then he talks about it. Secondly, yeah, there are a lot of people in my country that are corrupt. No more differently than in other places, but here, if you're a foreigner, because not every douchebag in our country can do whatever this guy did. Let me tell you, there are a lot of guys that are like this subspecimen, that's what I'd call him, but they don't have video chat businesses that make him a billionaire or trillionaire in a year or so. It doesn't happen like that for the majority of people. Because, sadly, we are colonialists in our approach. So whenever foreign people come to our country, locals who are not, they work in authorities, they're not very well educated, they will yield to bribes and other acts of corruption from foreigners much faster than they yield to their co-nationals. So don't be fooled. We're not a country of all billionaire and trillionaire corrupt people here. No. This guy, he came with the attitude, and a lot of Romanian dudes, because by the way, the people who take bribes in a lot of those institutions are also dudes. I'm going to have to say it. Usually in the institutions, in the higher echelon, you get a lot of men. I got to speak this one out also. So this part, actually, of his story, this is what triggered me the most. And I actually wrote to some people that I know from local authorities saying, hey, look, we got a problem in our country with this. A lot of countries have their own issues. We've got the corruption issue. Yes, we do. And now a lot of the internet, how do I say this, peaks, there are a lot of YouTubers that mentioned, how this guy chose Romania, why, and they mentioned the bribes and all of that. And I was telling to my acquaintances, look, people are going to start pointing fingers at us. They're going to start making, putting our name next to corruption, accessible corruption. We got so much more going on for our country, and the majority of people are not corrupt here. The majority of people are struggling because they don't have access to whatever Andrew Tate says that he didn't have access in his home country, but he had here. Guess what? There are so many people in our country that can say the very same. So just because he as a foreigner had more lenience from the corrupt people in offices doesn't mean that everybody has it here. Sadly. Now I'm not excusing our country for corruption. Totally not. I dislike corruption. Then there were other accounts how Romania and also Ukraine, somebody mentioned these two countries, as the countries with the largest number of women that are sex trafficked or working in video chat and in the sex industry. And this affirmation, I actually heard it in many other cases when I was interacting online, on Facebook, on several groups. When I mentioned that I was a Romanian, I'm a sex coach, people automatically thought that I was a sex worker. Luckily for me, there were other international people on those Facebook groups who contradicted statements like Romanian women are prostitutes and so on, because we're not. I don't have a bone of prostitution in my body, but, a lot of women are like me, actually. So the labels that we put on people, just when we meet somebody, we automatically label everybody from that, category, the same as the rotten apples. I gotta tell you, that was also triggering for me. So how do I view and regard tenophiles like Andrew Tate? Number one, as a coach, somebody who needs to interact only with people significantly younger 18 and 19-year-olds are not mature. They don't even have the strength to stand up to somebody when shit is being done to them. They do not. So when somebody he's in his late 30s, by the way, somebody like that still dates and prefers 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds, not matured, probably incapable to relate to people who are equal. But I hear that he's triggered by the word equal. Okay, in terms of psychological development, yes, we can be equals. In terms of emotional development, we can be equals. If you automatically put all women into the category of drama seekers and not equal to you because we have different roles, but you only interact with immature teens, 18 and 19-year-olds, how much can they stand up to a guy in his late 30s? Probably this guy, when he'll be 40, he'll still date teens. When he'll be 50, he'll probably still date teens. Because guess what? After the age of 25, 29, women start to wake up. And they don't take a lot of crap that guys like Andrew Tate, not all guys, just guys like Andrew Tate, they're physically brutal, aggressive. They are psychologically and emotionally bullies. That's also a mark of trauma right there. No respect for women's opinions. Every time this guy would talk about women in the past, because there's something that happened after he got banned, every time he talked about women in the past, it was in a negative light. In the positive light, it was girls, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds. What does that tell you? A man, fully grown man, when he keeps talking about girls, okay, he's a teenophile. How many of these guys are out there who start to give advice to people about what? Relationships, marriages, having kids, just demeaning people? Like there was a comment of this guy, or there was a clip of this guy belittling another man for having a sick kid. And when this guy was having his kid sick and he was asking for help, he was doing a fundraiser to, I don't know what kind of problem his child had, and he needed expensive medical intervention. This guy said, if you ask me nicely because you were so incapable to raise your own money, I'll save your kid. What kind of a lame, unevolved subspecies of a man or person does that? Somebody who's not worth a lot. You want to know the worst of this? Because after he got banned, he was interviewed by, I forgot the guy's name, Aiden Ross. And when he was mentioning, okay, he got banned, this guy, you know what this Andrew Tate teenophile does as a comeback? He backtracks. He says that he loves all women, he supports women, and that he donates to charities. Never once did he mention that before. All of a sudden we hear this. And then what he also says is that God has a plan, and that he, the teenophile, is God's favorite. Why? Because he was a four-time world kickbox champion, whatever, wrestling, whatever this guy did. And he built a business, and he was helping men get stronger. And this kid, who's 21, by the way, told him, God doesn't have preferences. God loves everybody. And then the teenophile starts to brag about himself some more and call this guy, Aiden, the kid that was interviewing him, in that interview earlier, I think he was calling him lazy. He wouldn't adopt him because he would be a really bad or tough father to Aiden, because he believed Aiden was lazy. That's insecurity at its highest and biggest level. And that is somebody that, somebody that has so much following. These guys never even take, not psychology or psychological therapy or whatever, because this guy doesn't believe it. Marketing or PR advice. Because when you start to talk shit like that, and even this guy, the 21-year-old, fucked him up in the end, like told him F you, and ended that video on a really demeaning note to the teenophile, obviously. So when you start to do that kind of shit, speak, like a teen would speak, although you're in your late 30s, it's lame. Even teens are gonna feel that you're powerless. You have no idea what the heck you're saying, and you're not worth the money that you ask other people to give you. Because his rates are super high to learn. Well, I'm not going to comment on the stuff that he teaches, because just based on seeing him talk, seeing what he says, the superficiality of most of his advice, this guy was just hustling his way up, and hustling no matter, didn't care about the consequences. The consequences got to him because, when you talk a lot of shit online where everybody can download the material and restream it somewhere else, you're going to have to face the fact that you're going to get deplatformed eventually. So you don't have any regards for what you're saying, and the consequences catch up to you, and then you do even more of that shit. That is poor strategy. I don't have to be I'm not a marketing specialist. I'm just a coach. I've seen the kind of stupidity that Andrew Tate, the Tenophile, showed from another blogger from our country, also with about 1 million followers here, who did the same kind of stupid mistakes and actually mentioned how he loved underage girls. He didn't mention it that way. He led us to believe that underage girls are the ideal. So that one was a Tenophile also. He got busted in in the online world. He got almost canceled. And initially, he didn't want to apologize. He actually made it worse. So the backlash got way worse. And several days later, when he received probably advice for PR advice, because sponsors were starting to back out, he was losing money. That's when he apologized. Now this guy, totally poor strategy. And I'm not saying go to a shrink or something. I'm not saying, because this guy is incapable of such a thing. He doesn't believe in it, and he probably will never attend to that. But go seek a PR or a marketing specialist, because you're in deep shit, brother. And you're probably going to lose income. Yeah. And if his business was not run properly and he spoke out that he bribed, there's legal foundation, potentially a lot of legal foundation, for him to be taken out of business also. So what do I feel? What's my opinion here, in case I didn't make it clear? I wouldn't take advice or motivation from people who are superficial, don't have enough substance. Maybe this guy could train other wrestlers. Sure, maybe he's good at that, hopefully. But just because you were a champion yourself doesn't mean you can train others. Those are two different skills. You know what it takes to win, in your case? Helping other people, motivating them, not God knows what else he could do with that attitude. So helping other people become world elite champions in wrestling, fighting, whatever. Sure, maybe he's good at that. The rest of the stuff, giving relationship advice, giving lame-ass motivation to people. I would so look for better men to give advice. Men that are in long-term relationships with people who are psychologically and emotionally on their level, okay? Somebody who's a tenophile in his late 30s or early 40s or late 40s, I wouldn't take advice from people like that. They don't understand relationships. They don't understand the notion of partnership. I don't care if they are legally married or not. If you're a tenophile, don't come speaking to other adults about relationships. Go get yourself fixed first, and then maybe talk about relationships and who you should date and why you should date the people and all of that stuff. Also, I don't think this guy has any wisdom to share. The belittling of the father with the sick kid and encouraging him to beg for money, that again is a sadist, but no normal human being does that. That's why I would not touch this guy with a stick. What guys would I recommend you to follow? Well, first of all, I do like Jordan Peterson. That's one guy that I actually appreciate for what he has to share. And yeah, he's married, he has a daughter, and he's had to face a lot of not just health issues, like really challenging stuff in his life, but also backlash from a lot of other people. And he managed to get out of just the reactionary and defensive style and just go out there and keep sharing his messages. Another guy that I would recommend, there's a podcast, The Spiritual Daddy. You're going to find him on Leo King YouTube channel. That podcast I would definitely encourage men to listen to. I really like Matthew Hussey. Okay, he had to fight a lot of opinions that he was maybe too young to start talking about relationships, that he was too commercial. There are other people in the field of dating and love coaching that do not agree with the stuff that he has to share. I'm super happy for this. And he also had to fight the fact that, the notion or the opinion that he might be gay. He's marrying a woman his age. That woman is not a teenager, by the way. Let's put things in their perspective. Another guy that I would follow, this is a man actually, but and he's not talking directly about relationships, but it would be Dr. Joe Dispenza. I think a lot of the people that are following tenophiles are somehow spiritually poor. Okay? Poor in spirit. Săraci cu duhul. That's what we call them in our country. I think they would need a bit of inner richness and just a different perspective on life. Bring love to the forefront. Then there is another channel, a YouTube channel, and it's a lot for guys actually. It's Charisma on Command. And Charisma on Command, it was, I don't know if I hope they still have it. Two guys, also younger guys, but they are actually bringing genuinely constructive stuff, really motivational stuff. Positively studying on examples, so much more valuable than the freaking tenophile. Check that channel out, okay? Really. Who else? Another channel, but this one is kind of like, something about the guy so it's Lewis Howes in the School of Greatness. The reason I'm like, there's a bit of reluctance or, I have my reticence here, partly. I signed up for a webinar of his back in the days when he was doing webinars. And he was a bit with people. I kid you not. Super aggressive. I don't understand that approach. I don't like it. You're bullying your people because you don't want the wrong kind of... Dude, the reason I'm recommending, though, his channel, YouTube channel, okay, Lewis Howes, The School of Greatness, is because, thank God, he takes interviews of others. Okay, so there are a lot of interviews, so there's a lot of other people that are sharing wisdom, both men and women. It's not Lewis Howes' wisdom, it is other people's wisdom. That's what I'm recommending here, okay? Another channel, this one is a community, and it is a community for men. Sacred Sons. I found them on Instagram. I think they're on YouTube also. They do workshops for men. Totally recommend people to go in that direction. And there's another guy or channel on Instagram. He's Destin Gerek, The Evolved Masculine. I hope I didn't mess up his name. My apologies, okay? The Evolved Masculine, you're going to find him on Instagram. He's got a book out there. He's got programs for guys. He's married. He's a father. I think he has a lot more wisdom to share than the tenophile. Seriously. One last recommendation here, though this one is probably for both men and women. Andrew Huberman and the Huberman Lab podcast. Guys, if you ever waste your time following tenophiles with low quality, superficial life advice, check out the Huberman Lab podcast. Seriously, even if just one episode, you're going to get so much more high quality growth, even in one episode, than wasting hours and hours of following stupid kindergarten level content from a guy that doesn't have it all figured out either. I'm not saying that the people that I recommended here have it all figured out. They're balanced. They've genuinely had to face stuff. They didn't have to put down other people. They didn't need to brag about themselves. They are just sharing their wisdom. Or in the case of the School of Greatness, they're allowing their channel to, for the voices of others. So I think that's more valuable than the tenophile. Okay? No more tenophilia, please, men. You're going to grow even older, and if you're going to remain to the level where you're only fit to date teens, but teens are not going to want to touch you in the near future because there will be too much of an age gap between you, I don't know what to tell you. Oh, another advice that I would really follow in terms of his actual work, Dr. David Buss, evolutionary psychologist at the University of Austin, Texas. He has a lot of books published. I also did a vlog, I'm going to put the thumbnail here, about the recent book that he put out there, which was with When Men Behave Badly. Okay, I actually started reading that book, and it's based on studies done either in 37 cultures across the planet or just in the American culture. Okay, so the Western culture, basically. Still going to be valuable stuff for you there. I would totally recommend that you check out that book also if you want to understand stuff better. This is from me, okay? So I'm a woman. I'm no longer 18 and 19. Totally not in that age. I'm in my late 30s. I'm in the age range of the tenophile. I don't date guys that are 18 or 19. I do not. I want somebody who's as mature as I am. I want to, relate to somebody as my partner in their full right. And I think there are a lot of healthy men out there who want the same. Just because you've had some negative experiences in your relationships, that doesn't mean you have to take advice from the wrong people. This guy, tenophile, corrupt tenophile with a lot of issues, more to come to the forefront, I think. I wouldn't follow him. I wouldn't take advice from somebody like that. Check out the other suggestions. I'm going to put a list with all the names that I mentioned here under this video in case any of these are new to you. Last but not least, if you want to work with me for whatever reason, there are also a lot of programs under my video here. Ebook, that's a coaching book. Programs in the dojo, a lot of them with practices around sexuality. Obviously, I'm an intimacy coach. That's what I do. There's the Patreon community where I do highly accessible daily bodywork practices just for calming down, grounding, bringing back your focus, balancing your emotions, and so forth. And obviously, you can do one-on-one coaching. That is totally valuable. I can't take too many people in individual coaching, but if you have the time and the availability for this and the finances, check that option also. That being said, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.